All right, we're going to do the predictions, Pachter Factor, on record for 2025. I'm going to tell you what I expect for PlayStation, what I expect for Xbox, what I expect for Nintendo, and what I expect for the industry. So 4 predictions. I'm probably not going to talk that long. Don't rush out and get a soda. I'll be done by the time you get back. So what do I think about PlayStation? I think they are going to see such a flop with PS5 Pro at the $799 price point that gets discounted immensely. I'd say probably on par with PS5, which will in turn force a price cut to the PS5. So the reason I say this is a 2025 prediction instead of a 2024 prediction is that they'll get through Christmas before they choke. And what's going to happen is they're just not going to sell very many units of either one at Christmas. So I expect PS5 Pro to drop probably to $499 and PS5 to drop to $399. And that's a big price cut. That should spark sales. It looks to me like the cost of production is right around there. Now, the one wrench that gets thrown into all this is Trump and tariffs. If he imposes tariffs across the board, that might screw up the ability to cut price. So Sony may freeze. You might not get those cuts till January 30th or so, because they probably want to see what Trump's going to do. I don't expect any of these tariffs to actually take effect. We hired a Secretary of Treasury who's a largely anti-tariff guy, who has said on record, if you're going to impose a 10% tariff on China, make it 1% and see what happens. And if it works, go to 2. And if that works, go to 3. So moderation, which is the way you want to run all political things. So short of an across-the-board big tariff, Sony cuts price. That's my big prediction. Big prediction, excuse me. But let's see if I'm right. Xbox. I think Microsoft really pushes Game Pass off console. And I mean Game Pass off PC as well. I think you're going to see a dramatic expansion of the availability of Game Pass on Chromecast devices, Fire TV sticks, Roku devices. I think that happens beyond the Samsung operating system. You're going to get a partnership with every big device. I think people don't recognize Roku is in 80 million households. Fire TV has sold 200 million sticks. Now that, more likely than not, is a couple of sticks per household, but they're in probably 100 million households. Google Chromecast has sold 100 million devices, so they're probably in 50 million households. If Microsoft picks up those 3 as partners, they're instantly in a couple 100 million households if people want to sign up for Game Pass. And the nice thing about those devices is they have a business model where they get to share in the revenue for any subscription that a household signs up for. So if you're a Roku household and sign up for Netflix, Roku gets $1 a month in perpetuity. So if you're a Roku household and you sign up for Xbox Game Pass, they'll get $1 a month. So Roku will be all over that, pushing the hell out of that. Microsoft will give you not only 3 months free trial, but they'll work with Roku to give you limited trials to different games to check out. Play the first 3 levels of Call of Duty single player campaign, see if you like it, whatever. I think that's going to happen, and so that's my big prediction for Microsoft is they figure out a way to, really broadly expand the penetration of Game Pass outside of consoles. Nintendo, this is a really obvious one, and I'm sorry to tell you what everybody else is going to say, but they announced the Switch 2. And I think they announced it sooner rather than later. I would say the drop dead date for Switch 2 to be announced is the Game Developers Conference, which I want to say is middle of March, like March 17th or 20th or something. So right in there. I think they actually do it there. I think that they'll have a playable prototype. I think they're going to actually show us what the thing is and talk about pricing. My guess is pricing won't be higher than the Switch OLED. It's probably going to be $349, and I think that will be really well received. If they are really smart, they announced Mario Kart 9 as a Switch 1 title that will then be a launch title for Switch 2. That's the same thing they did with Mario Kart 8. So, 7 years ago? Yeah, 7 years ago, 7.5 years ago. It's due. They're ready. It's coming. That's the perfect game to be a system seller. And they've already said that Switch 2 will be backward compatible. So, I'm not sure that you're going to rush out and upgrade just for that title. But I think if you're about to buy a Switch, you might wait for the Switch 2, because why not? I mean, I don't think they're going to launch it in March of 25. I think they're going to announce it in March of 25 for launch in fall, launch in November. By definition, it will be supply constrained because Nintendo just doesn't take risk on that. So if you remember back with the Wii, their first year production was 14 million and they sold 14 million. And then the second year they went to 19 million and they sold 19 million. And the third year they went to 21 and they sold 21. It wasn't until the fourth year that their production caught up with demand. So if I had to bet 15 million Switch 2s, I don't think they'll make more. Demand might be 30, but I don't think they'll make more than 15. So, and they won't sell that many this year because it's going to launch in November. So, it'll be, October, November, September, whatever. It's not going to launch the day they announce it. So my expectation is, it'll sell a few million. God knows how many they make, but supply constraint. You won't be able to get one. And that's just how all these guys do it. They don't want to take a chance. General industry prediction. Wow. I think you'll probably see Ubisoft sold in 2025. And I think the likely buyer is Savvy Games, the Saudi investment fund. Ubi has put itself in play on a buyout that's sponsored by the Guillemot family, who owns maybe 15-17% of the stock, and Tencent, who owns, I think, 10% of the stock. So combined, they have 25 or 27% power. But what they'll do is make a bid, and I think that the Saudis will step in and bid higher. And I think that the Guillemots are setting this bid up so they can sell to the Saudis. I think that they're ready to cash out and keep power and keep control of the company and keep running it. And the Saudis don't have the bench. Savvy has a couple of senior execs, but they're not going to be able to leave, managing oversight of the acquisition strategy as well as running all these companies. They kept Scopely management intact when they bought that company. So I think they'll keep Ubi management intact, which I think is good for Ubi. Ubi's already got a strategy of building games all over the place. So I don't think it'll hurt Ubi at all to open up a studio in Saudi Arabia. And, they won't have to staff it with, all foreign nationals. I mean, they can hire people out of Saudi University or Saudi nationals who go to university elsewhere. And there's enough games going on at Ubisoft that they can put these people in low risk, low leverage assignments early in their career and just let them develop into high quality, good developers. So they can work more on art assets or sound or, things that are less leveraging to the outcome. They can certainly work in live ops and run that. And I think that you'll get a good foothold, and that's the whole Saudi basis for investing in the industry in the first place. They want to develop jobs in their country for their citizens, and I think that's great. So I think that's the big one. I think Ubi gets bought, and I honestly think nothing changes at Ubi except they get less worried about hitting quarters and releasing games too early. And I don't think you ever hear anybody go off on the Saudis as being too woke. They're not. You might still have a black protagonist in Assassin's Creed and a woman protagonist, and the UB creatives are going to still do stuff like that. But I don't think anybody would ever call the Saudis woke. They're just not. They're the opposite of woke. So anyway, that's my predictions for 2025. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time.